Well, if you're wondering what's happened, so am I.
Imagine you're sitting in your living room in Chicago. It's November 22nd, 1987. The glow on your television fills the room as you settle in for a quiet Sunday night. Maybe you're watching the news, maybe football highlights, maybe even an episode of Doctor Who. It feels like any other ordinary evening. And then your screen suddenly cuts out. Not static, not a technical error, something far stranger. Standing on your television screen is a man, or at least what appears to be a man, wearing a strange rubber mask. A mask with exaggerated plastic features, wide eyes, and unsettling grin, and behind him, a spinning metallic background. The figure rocks back and forth unnaturally, silent, watching, for 17 long seconds. Then suddenly, the screen returns to normal. No explanation, no warning, as if nothing had happened. The viewers watching Chicago station WGN-TV that night had just witnessed the beginning of one of the strangest unsolved crimes in broadcasting history. The event we now know as the Max Headroom Incident. However, things were about to get much weirder. To understand why this was so bizarre, we need to go back to the 1980s. At the time, a character named Max Headroom had become wildly popular. Max Headroom was an artificial intelligence television host known for his computerized appearance, jerky movements, and signature stuttering speech patterns. He was weird, futuristic, and unmistakable, which is exactly why what happened next terrified people, because 2 hours later, the hitchhiker came back. At approximately 11:20 p.m., viewers watching Chicago Public Television, without warning, the broadcast was interrupted again. And suddenly, there he was, the same masked figure, only this time he had a microphone. This time the interruption lasted over 90 seconds. What followed was absolute chaos. The figure began speaking in distorted audio. His words seemed random, disconnected, almost manic. At one point, he muttered,
"He's a freaking nerd.
Then another strange phase.
Catch the wave.
Then,
Your love is fading."
there was no explanation, no obvious motive, just bizarre, fragmented rambling, delivered through a warped electronic voice. It felt less like a prank and more like someone had hijacked reality itself. But somewhere, the final moments became even stranger. The camera angle shifted. The masked figure bent forward, exposing his bare backside to the camera.
No.
And then, an unseen accomplice began repeatedly striking him with a fly swatter. Yes, a fly swatter. Seconds later, the screen went black and regular programming resumed. No explanation, no apology, nothing. Imagine being a viewer in 1987 with no internet, no social media, no immediate answers. You simply witnessed one of the strangest things imaginable for that time period. And then life carried on. Naturally, authorities panicked. The Federal Communications Commission launched an immediate investigation. The FBI got involved because this wasn't simply a hacking. In 1987, television stations transmitted signals using microwave relay systems between broadcast towers. To interrupt that signal, someone needed specialized equipment, powerful transmission technology. and detailed technical knowledge of how television broadcasting worked. This wasn't some random teenager pressing buttons in their bedroom. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. Investigators believed the hijacker had to be physically close enough to overpower two separate station signals, meaning this was carefully planned, deliberate, and precise, and incredibly risky. Yet somehow, nobody was caught. Over the years, theories began spreading. Some believed it was a disgruntled television engineer, someone with insider knowledge, proving how vulnerable broadcasting systems really were. Others thought it was an underground hacker collective pulling off an elaborate prank. Some people noticed the hijacker appeared to mock local sports broadcaster Chuck Swirsky, leading to theories of personal revenge, and others believe the entire thing was performance art. A bizarre anti-media statement decades before internet trolling became normal. But despite decades of investigation, no suspects have ever been publicly identified. No arrests were ever made, and the case slowly disappeared into history. But here's the part that makes the story unsettling. Someone knows, somewhere, there is a person who successfully hijacked two major television stations, broadcast one of the strangest interruptions in history, humiliated federal investigators, and walked away without ever being caught. Nearly 40 years later, the Max Headroom Incident remains unsolved. A bizarre relic of a pre-internet world. Proof that sometimes the strangest mysteries don't involve ghosts or killers or creatures hiding in the dark. Sometimes the creepiest mystery is simply wondering who's behind the screen and why they decided to let the world watch.